My own father wants my wife, and his reasons will shock you. My father single-handedly raised my brother and me until we became adults because my mother left him when we were just children, and she later remarried and relocated to the UK. Up to date, neither my mother nor my father refused to tell us the reason for which they got divorced. My elder brother later joined my mother in the UK, where he later got a job, married, and started his own family in the UK. I was then left with my dad back home. My dad was into the selling of building materials, but when I was done with university, I joined a family business and later expanded it into real estate and selling of properties. God being so good, the business grew really fast and big, and we made a lot of profits. I then decided to get married, which my father also agreed because he felt I was of age. I later married this beautiful, gorgeous, and amazing woman that I met at the bank where we saved money made from the family business. My wife was very peaceful. She was so understanding and generally a very good person to me and a wonderful mother to our beautiful daughter. After 6 years of marriage, I came home one day and my wife told me that she wanted a divorce. I was surprised and shocked at the same time because we never had any major issue in our marriage apart from the little misunderstanding most marriages have like ours. I asked her what the problem was and she wouldn't say much. I went further to ask her if I have done something wrong or if I have offended her in any way, but she said no. I even asked her if I was not doing well in the bedroom so that I could spice things up. But she said that wasn't the problem. At this point, I was really confused and disturbed. I asked her again and again and again if I did something wrong so that at least I could apologize. But all she said was, I did nothing wrong. So what could be her reason for wanting to end a beautiful marriage like ours? You see, most people would say I should leave her, give her the divorce that she wanted badly, and perhaps remarry. But you see, I made a promise to myself that if I should ever get married, I'm going to make it work. And so I am ready and was ready to work on my marriage. Besides, like I said earlier, my wife is a very good woman. She has not given me any problems since we got married. So why should I leave such a good person to go just like that without any proper explanations? At least I need to know her reasons for wanting to leave me. So I decided to discuss the issue with my dad, and he gave me the shock of my life. My dad, in fact, my biological father, looked me in the face and told me that he is in love with my wife, and in fact, my wife is also in love with him, and that is why she wanted a divorce. After hearing this, in fact, I thought it was just a joke and I laughed over it. But my dad told me once again that he was not joking and he meant every word that he said. How can my own father wants to take my wife away from me when he could actually marry any woman of his choice? I went back to ask my wife if she was aware or had any knowledge of what my dad was saying, but sadly, she also confirmed it. She also mentioned that she was in love with my dad, and that is why she wanted a divorce. Even after hearing all that, I still felt that these two were pranking me. But when my wife left her matrimonial home and moved in with my dad, it dawned on me that they really meant business and they were not joking at all. I am totally confused now and I don't know what brought about this huge change. What could be the real reason why my wife is leaving me for my own dad? I feel something is not right. I feel something is not right because I make sure that this woman is okay financially. I don't disrespect her. I always encourage her to ask me anything that she lacks so that I could provide for her. So why is she leaving me? Guys, I really need some help on this one. Ladies, what could be the reasons why you suddenly leave your man? And my dear men out there, what could be the reason why a woman will suddenly leave you? Please help me with some answers because I am totally confused. In as much as my wife has left her matrimonial home and now living with my dad, I still go to visit her at least twice in a month in order to give her money for my daughter's upkeep and to see my beautiful daughter. But each time I visit her, I notice that she always looked sad. I keep wondering if she says she's indeed in love with my dad, then why does she always look sad? It is exactly 1 year since she left her matrimonial home, even though we are not officially divorced yet. As I always do, I go there to visit my daughter and to give her money. But on this particular day, when I was leaving, my wife told me that she'd like to have a word with me. She began by crying and explained why she had to leave our marriage. So according to her, she was dating my dad while she was working at the bank. My dad wanted to marry her, but he was not ready to have another child. My wife, on the other hand, wanted to marry and have her own children. So that was what led to their separation. After we got married, however, my dad came back into the picture, and according to him, he was still in love with her. My wife, on the other hand, said no, but my dad threatened to expose her and have her arrested and perhaps go to jail for so many years if she does not agree. According to my wife, while she was working in the bank, she secretly stole some money in order to take care of her siblings. My dad knew about this secret by reading one of her diaries, but never revealed it to her until now. Now, the problem is that my wife is ready to tell the bank what she did and face the consequences. But I don't want the mother of my child to go to jail, most especially because my child is very young. I begged my dad to keep it a secret, but he said no. If my wife ever leaves him, he's going to reveal everything. My wife, on the other hand, is ready to leave my dad because, according to her, she only decided to leave her matrimonial home in order to keep that secret forever. But she had realized that she's not even happy with my dad, so she's ready to face the consequences. The harder I tried to see how best to solve the problem between my father and my wife, the harder my father, on the other hand, made the situation more difficult. I tried as much as possible not to discuss the issue with any family member because I felt the moment I tell any family member, especially my dad's family, the issue will escalate and my wife's shame will be in the public domain. And I felt that shame will eventually follow my daughter in the long run, so I decided not to share it with anybody. But when the problems seemed not to be getting any positive results, I decided to confide in one of my uncles whom we all know to be very secretive. And when I discussed my issue with this uncle, that was when the whole truth was revealed. So, according to my uncle, the man whom I have known all my life as my father is actually not my father. In fact, my father cannot even make any woman pregnant because he was involved in an accident that has affected his ability to have children. He explained further that at the time that my father had the accident, he married the woman whom I have known all my life as my mother a few months. So when he realized that he couldn't have children, he arranged with the man to have an encounter with my mother, and that was how my elder brother was born. He did this in order to make sure that nobody is able to tell that he couldn't have children of his own. After my brother was about 3 years old, my father tried convincing my mom to have another baby with another man again. But this time around, my mom refused, and because of that, they were always fighting and having issues in their marriage. My father, however, got a girlfriend, dragged her and got her pregnant by using another man. And that is how I came into this world. Unfortunately, a few hours after I was born, the lady in question died. And that is how my mother, or the woman I have known as my mother all my life, took very good care of me until she relocated to the UK. I now understand why my mom divorced my dad. And I now understand why my mom didn't really bother so much about me when she relocated to the UK. There were many times that I was wondering why a mother like her wouldn't check on her child. Now my question is, now that I know the whole truth, how do I convince my dad to tell me who my biological father is without provoking him to even become more evil, or without hurting me, my wife, and my child? Should I even tell him that I know the whole truth, or should I just keep quiet take my wife, and live a quiet life. So I convinced my wife to travel with me to the UK after I spoke with my mother about our situation, and she also confirmed the entire story. She advised that I leave the country as soon as possible to the UK as she was ready to accommodate us and to make us stay comfortable as well. She also added that there was more to the story, but she only tell me when we get to the UK. I then told my wife about the new plan, which she was very happy about. Her major problem, however, was how to hide our traveling plans from my father because she believed that my father was monitoring her every move. Now, a little backstory. I didn't tell my wife what I discovered about my dad not being my biological father and his accidents, but sadly, she found out about this story when I was on the phone with my lawyer. I had to tell my lawyer everything because of our family business, because biologically, he is not my father, but we are now business partners. So I needed to know what the law says or what's the legal interpretation of my situation with this man now. I also wanted to know how the law protects me in this situation. So while I was on the phone with my lawyer, my wife came to my house and she heard the entire story. She was shocked, but she was also very happy that at least my father is not my biological dad. I told her not to reveal what she had discovered to my dad, which she agreed. After discussing our traveling plans with her, she left my house to her friend's house where she resided. According to her, she felt safe at a friend's house because it's a gated community and security was very tight. So I allowed her to stay there with my daughter while I worked towards our documentation in order to travel. Everything was really going on well as planned until one hot afternoon, my wife's friend called me to tell me that she was afraid something bad could be happening to my wife in my father's house because my wife called her and it appeared she was in pain. According to her, while she was talking to my wife, her phone went off. She tried to call back, but then the phone was completely off at this moment. The question I asked myself was, how did my wife even get to my father's house in the first place? And up to today, I do not have answers as to why my wife had to go back to my father's house because she promised me that she was never going back there because she was not happy living with my dad. After receiving that call from my wife's friend, I quickly rushed to my father's house and what I saw was a complete eyesore. I saw my wife in a pool of blood, lying lifeless in my father's living room. The housekeeper who was taking care of my dad explained that my wife came to the house very angry that afternoon, and soon after the two of them got into a heated argument. According to the housekeeper, my wife told my dad what she knew about I not being his biological child and his inability to have children of his own. This information really made my father angry, and he ended up unliving her by using a kitchen knife. My father is now at large. He has run away and nobody really knows where he's hiding now. My wife has since been buried and I have hired a nanny to take care of my daughter. I am still living in so much fear because I do not know whether my father is still alive or dead, or what he could be planning to do next. What exactly can I do in order to protect myself and my daughter from this man? It has been 2 years after that calamity happened to us, and we have still not had any information about my dad's whereabouts. But recently, I noticed a huge sum of amounts have been withdrawn from our business account, and I knew right away that it could be my dad and no one else. I then hired a private investigator and re-reported the issue to the police. The findings from the private investigator showed that the person withdrawing the money was still living in the country, and since my father was a prime suspect, I knew that the man was still living in the country. So I had to beef up my security in order to protect myself and my household. So long story short, my father was arrested at the airport when he was trying to travel outside the country. Unfortunately, before he could be arraigned before court, he took his own life, depriving me of so many of unanswered questions. At least I can now live in peace now, but I wish he had told me who my biological father is and why he chose to live this evil life that deprived me of so much happiness and so much joy. I pray that I find answers to my questions one day, because my life still feels like a mirage with so many questions that I wish he had answered before taking a bow from this earth.